Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I thought I would make a video today talking about something that I love, which is the Avatar universe. I really wanted to share my thoughts or my take on the new live action Avatar as a person who possesses an associate's degree in creative writing, as well as a person who grew up with the original animated show and is completely and utterly obsessed. Now, of course, the cartoon will always and forever be the holy grail of Avatar in my heart. Nothing can ever replace that. I also feel that this live-action adaptation craze in Hollywood has gotten a bit overbearing and completely unnecessary. Animation will always reign supreme for me, but regardless, I was pretty excited to see an almost Game of Thrones realism take on the Avatar world. And boy, did they deliver.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
I watched the show twice in the span of 24 hours out of sheer fascination, and I honestly was not disappointed. And I'll tell you why. It's actually well made. Of course, there are flaws, there always are, but in terms of it being a good show, it is actually good. The thing is, you have to separate it from the original material and accept the live action as its own thing. You're not going to get a cartoon seamlessly adapted to live action. That's just not going to happen. Now on to the more specific points that I want to talk about. First is the bending. Right off the bat, the bending looked really good to me. I could totally envision a Marvel DC crossover with superheroes and stuff. I loved how the fire bending was so realistic, literally catching fire to everything around it, and even Sozin burning someone alive in the first episode. I was literally like, damn, when I first watched it. Also, the environments looked really amazing. The air temples were gorgeous, and Appa and Momo looked really good. Momo was absolutely adorable. I think I screamed the first time I saw him. On to the character Sokka. Now, I know a lot of people have complained that Sokka's sexism is gone. I personally like that change. I found his sexism in the cartoon annoying, which is probably realistic for him depicting a child, and that's how kids are. But in a live action drama taking place during wartime, I think that change was warranted. And I argue that his sexism isn't entirely gone, it's just not as blatant. Rather than him judging purely on sex or gender, he's coming from a point of feeling an inherent need to protect his sister, protect Suki, protect Yue, and make his father proud.
Dad?
And for a live-action drama, I quite like and appreciate that character depth. On to Katara. She was another character that a lot of people didn't like the adjustment of, and that's because she's not as blatantly out front about her fight for equality and what she stands for as she was in the cartoon. But in the dramas, I think she's a bit more timid and afraid to speak her mind in the live action until she grasps waterbending extremely well. Again, looking at the state of the world where she watched her mom die, she's the only surviving waterbender in the South. War and death forsakes everything. I think it is pretty realistic and understandable for her to struggle to find her voice until she gets to the North and rallies the other female waterbenders to help fight.
I thought I showed you how stupid that is. Forget your pride. This is about the survival of the waterbenders, and you need all the help you can get. You know we can make a difference.
We?
That scene honestly gave me chills. We don't get to see that in the cartoon. I just think she could have used more screen time and episodes to really develop. Now for Boo, one of my most favorite adaptations. I really loved him. I actually like that they had him get a little emotional towards Aang because, again, that would be a more realistic response if you were to live 100 years of war and turmoil. I can't imagine the trauma Bumi must have endured while his friend was missing. Kind of see the way that he interacting with Aang and crying while fighting him, and you almost see the flash in his eyes of the long life that he's lived in absolutely misery and in this wartime. I can't imagine what he's been through. And I really like that depth and touch of realism. It's not all cartoony and laughs and giggles. Now, another thing I found interesting was that they brought in Azula in the first book, because she's in the cartoon, she's not in the series until season 2 or book 2. But I thought this was a very interesting change because this means we really get a sense of character development for her. No, her fire isn't blue yet, so we get to see at one point her fire becomes blue, and at one point she basically loses her mind. And I'm really interested to see how the live action show handles her craziness. Hopefully they do. I actually really liked that they included a bit of Indian culture in Omashu. I felt like that really suited Boomy well and brought some great diversity to the show. I admit I was a bit surprised that they overlapped like 4 different episodes from the cartoon into this one episode, but I think it ended up working really well. It made sense for Jet and the Freedom Fighters to be hanging out around there, for Teo and his dad to take refuge there, and for Boomy to give up hope a bit. The only thing that was a bit out of place was the secret tunnels.
Through the mountains, secret, 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 secret tunnel. Yeah. They're doomed.
At some points in the show, I feel like they shoved things in episodes almost in preparation to not get renewed for a second season. But as we know now, they have been renewed for a second and third season. So I'm really excited to see how they handle these elements that were supposed to be in later seasons.
And all you see are rocks and stone.
On to the Spirit World episode. Another example of them just sprinkling things from later seasons into the first one was the Spirit World. I almost feel like there was no reason for Washi Tong to be there unless there wasn't going to be another season. They just wanted to show him. So I kind of wonder what they're going to do with the Washi Tong's library that's supposed to appear in book 2. Or whether they're going to show it at all. So maybe that's why they just shoved them in book 1, because they're not going to show them in book 2. But I really hope they do. Aang didn't really interact with Heibai at all, so we didn't really get that closure in that little storyline. I know he buried the seed, but didn't really show Heibai calming down or thanking Aang or whatever. Ko looked phenomenal though. But I do appreciate them attempting to combine so many storylines or episodes from the cartoon into one episode. It was kind of a creative take on it. Because in a cartoon, Katara and Sokka do become ill, and Aang does have to go away on his own to try and take care of his friends, and he does get captured. So getting them trapped in the spirit world, having them predisposed, and then getting captured, that does pretty much follow the original material pretty well. That's just a very interesting way of handling that. All in all, I think this new live-action Avatar show was a success compared to the live-action movie. However, I have to wonder if it was necessary to do The Last Airbender again. I think it could have been cool if they did an entirely different Avatar, a fresh story to suit a live-action realistic drama better than working so hard to recycle the original material that didn't need recycled in the first place. Like, if they did a Kyoshi storyline, I think that could have been cool, because they spent a lot of time and money in the second episode making Kyoshi look like a total badass, and I absolutely loved how they depicted Kyoshi in it. I think the Avatar universe needs and deserves to be expanded and explored, and I think there could be a way to use live action to explore it more in different ways, rather than just recycling the same material over and over. I almost feel like Hollywood is hitting this creative block and just feels the need to keep recycling material rather than coming up with something new. Like that live action Lion King, live action Ariel, they're coming out for Inside Out 2. Don't get me wrong, I am super excited for Inside Out 2. I just don't think the original needed a sequel. But was it wanted? Absolutely. In the end, I like the show. The original is still better. I will make a separate video on how much Avatar means to me. I'll also be doing another video on if my brain existed in Inside Out, but I want to wait for the new one to come out first so that I know more about the new motions. I also want to make a separate video on the live action version of Zuko and Uncle Iroh because they are just absolutely perfect. So I want to give them a whole video on their own to explain why they were so successfully portrayed in this live action show. So stay tuned for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Matane!